Check out the new Friendo U lineup at friendoshop.com and use promo code FRIENDO2024 to get 20% off store-wide. Hey, Friendo, Steve here.
Hey, Larson.
Welcome back to Going In Raw, the only pro wrestling podcast you need to be listening to. On today's episode, we've got your steaming hot takes about the world of pro wrestling, past, present, and even maybe the future of pro wrestling. Yeah, I don't know. I think past, present, you got to throw the future in there if you say the past and the present.
I think that's correct.
Yeah.
You're obligated.
Yeah, this first one, I think, sort of, you could consider this potentially something that you can look to the future to and the past. Good old Gamer has a hot take, says, wrestling was better back in the day when it could be sold as real. Now that everyone knows it's fake, it's little more than a soap opera. Larson, I have a book about professional wrestling that was written in like the mid-1930s.
Yeah, I gave that to you.
Yes, you did. I don't know. It was one of those. You gave me two, I think, and then I have also another one.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, no, this one I found. Yeah, no, this is a different one. But the first paragraph, the first page, it starts out talking about the match that happened in the ring and being back in the locker room with the two competitors and them talking about going town to town, putting on the same match. This was a book published, made available to the public back in the 1930s. I'm sure there's probably some segment of individuals, I know probably a lot of them are children, who had some semblance of belief that this was real until a certain age or until somebody smartened them up on the business. But I don't think it's the belief that people have in whether it's fake or real that is the issue, if there is an issue with professional wrestling. However, I can understand when people, maybe whatever the dude Gamer, good old Gamer here, when you look at specifically some of the territories back in the day, when you got these big beefy plumber looking dudes in the ring bleeding like they're stuck pigs, and these old biddies in the crowd going absolutely crazy, and it's messier and it's sloppier and it looks perhaps more like a real fight, that this person is pining for that type of wrestling. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think there's this kind of romanticized notion of what wrestling was like in ye olden days, where everybody was bought into the concept that it was real, or didn't know that it was predetermined, choreographed. And as you stated, at least as far back as the 1930s, probably even before that, people were well aware of the fact that these weren't real fights that were happening.
Yeah. I didn't need John Stossel to tell me that it was fake.
Exactly. And look, you didn't get slapped by David Schultz either, the process.
Thank God.
Yeah. And storytelling has always been, or at least for a very long time, a part of pro wrestling. It's a storytelling medium. It has been for decades.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, it could be a situation where it's literally the approach to how the wrestlers put together their matches in the ring, as in very rarely are matches put together like they're actual fights.
Sure.
You don't got it's not very often you have two burly dudes in the ring throwing hands for 20 minutes and bleeding all over the place.
Yeah.
And that's it, Yeah. And for a lot of years in parts of this country, that was pro wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
People would get in the mic. They'd get you to believe that they hated their opponent. They'd get in the ring, bleed all over the place, throw in some punches, maybe an occasional body slam or suplex. And there'd be a winner. They'd go backstage, have a beer together, on to the next town, do it all over again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that aspect of pro wrestling is not as prevalent as it was maybe 30, 40 years ago. And that could be entirely possible that good old Gamer is pining for the days of Mid-South Wrestling in 1982. Don't know.
Yeah.
But, I like any other storytelling pro wrestling is like the one storytelling medium where people kind of give it crap for it not being real.
Sure,
You
yeah.
know, like no one complains about movies, narrative movies not being real or TV or whatever. If the world building of that particular production is good enough and you can immerse yourself in that world, you can get lost in the story that's being told. And I think that's the same for pro wrestling as well. You can suspend your disbelief to an extent if the story's good, if the world building is good, that you're not consciously thinking, oh, this is fake. You're just into the story being told.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, it's funny because I used to be of the opinion that I feel like the world of pro wrestling did itself a disservice by because he's saying here it was better back in the day when it could be sold as real. And he continues, now that everyone knows it's fake, I think the assumption there is that people used to think that it was real. And like I said, I think that there was a segment of the population that might have believed it that way. You know, the old biddies in the crowd, children up to a certain age. Evidently Stone Cold Steve Austin until he had his first match, because I remember him saying that. Mm-hmm. But, man, I don't know. I feel like when you set yourself up, when you have a product that is selling itself as something that it isn't, when the only thing you can really do is deflect when people say, "Hey, this is fake," and the only thing you can do is deflect and say, "Oh yeah," and you slap John Stossel or you choke out Richard Belzer till he whacks his head on the floor. Well, you're kind of not doing a great job selling your product, because then you put yourself in a defensive position.
Yeah.
When people say, "Oh, it's the fake stuff," well, it's predetermined. It's a show. It's like Triple H said in the McMahon documentary. No, it's people that are smart enough to buy into the fictional aspect of it and have fun with it. And the defensive nature of the business almost came off as like an insecurity.
Oh yeah.
About the business,
like they
permeating
were taking it
the business
seriously as other art forms.
And you even see that kind of stuff.
In a lot of circles, it wasn't.
You're right, yeah. And you see that even manifest today, like when Austin Theory had to confront that Australian reporter over that stuff, and it got kind of awkward. Mm-hmm. It's something that, the sad thing is, it's something that most athletes that have tried it have said, or most like professional sports athletes have tried it and been like, this is really hard. It's an incredibly difficult profession to succeed at. They're incredibly skilled athletic people who can take a beating, because that's what happens to them. And so it's kind of a shame that, for as real as it is in every conceivable way beyond the scripted nature of it, it gets stuck with this tag of the fake stuff. No, I prefer UFC because it's real. And it's, like McMahon said in the documentary, I deal with characters in fictional stories. And they seem to have like booked themselves into a corner of sorts, having to defend that all the time.
Yeah.
And I wonder if things were different if, like, in the, when McMahon launched his national campaign with WrestleMania in the early 80s, I wonder if as part of that, he maybe, I don't know, did some publicity to transition that concept, that image into, this is a show. Mm-hmm. We're having fun with this. You call it fake. It's a show. So are movies. So are TV shows. We're no different than that. And I wonder if it might have helped, from that moment on, the stigma would then be kind of muted. It would be made irrelevant. I don't know, but no, I don't think, I think that the vast majority of people have understood that it's a show for almost 100 years now, probably 100, because it was around 100 years ago. Shit started getting really like worked. And so it was Gold Dust Trio and all them. It was in the mid 20s. So no, I don't think. Look, you can go back. I don't even know what decade or what era he's talking about. Are we talking about the early 80s, the 70s, the 90s? I don't think anybody in the 90s thought this shit was real. I don't know what era he's talking about it was sold on, but I appreciate that these days there is far more genres of wrestling. There are far more, ideas of what wrestling is and what what it can be, comedy wrestling, dramatic wrestling, work rate matches, squash, all that kind of shit.
Yeah.
Flippy stuff, hard hitting stuff. Not everything. If everything was Vader versus Stan Hansen, I'd probably like it, but I could understand that it would have a limited appeal.
Well, I mean, even when if you remember back when we were reviewing NXT before the rebrand of 2.0, there was a certain monotony in the way it was presented because you got a lot of really, really good matches, but all the characters were kind of the same.
Yeah, right.
And I think that's kind of the downside to presenting a product that's completely rooted in being real.
Yeah.
Because you can't have, and you could argue whether this is good or not, you can't have a character like The Undertaker if you're presenting your product as real, because it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. Yeah, right, exactly.
And you can't have, have manifest lightning in the arena.
You get Mean Mark Callis, and nobody really cared about that guy.
No, so, you gotta to fully embrace, I think, what pro wrestling has to offer. I don't know if saying, "Oh, it has to be presented in one way and one way only," is I don't know. It's just, at least it's not for me. Like, I appreciate pro wrestling in all its shapes and variety.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that makes it fun and interesting and great, is that, it's a few people, or 2 or 3 or 4, how many people in the ring, choreographing movement to tell a story to get the audience emotionally involved. For me, that's what pro wrestling is all about. And you can do that with doing a bunch of flips. You can do that with people bleeding all over the place. You can do that in rest holds if the story is compelling.
And here's the funny thing, dude. When he says it's little more than a soap opera, I hate to break it to you. The soap opera elements are what drives those. When you look at whatever, the Freebirds and the Von Erichs back in the day, if you look at those crowds and they're going absolutely crazy, it's because of the soap opera element to it. That didn't exist. That wasn't in a bubble. That was a story. It was the family legacy of the Von Erichs, and then the Freebirds and what they brought to the equation. The soap opera is the thing. The stories and the characters, that's the thing. It wasn't, here's this beefy guy and here's this beefy guy, and people are going crazy. They're going crazy for the characters and the stories. And the stories might have been told a little bit different back then, but it's the same concept.
Yep.
So,
let's move on to Avery Wash. Hot take. Avery says, I agree with Samantha Irvin. Wrestling fans can't just enjoy the wrestling shows, but have to complain or judge every segment as if they are a critic.
Oh, boy.
That's one of the things that happens if you're an artistic medium. So you open yourself up to criticism.
True. True.
It's like saying, let's release movies and not let critics watch them and review them and analyze them. And I'm not just talking about like people that write the reviews in the newspaper, gives it, so many popcorn heads or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I'm talking about like people who actually write about movies. Like Pauline Kael was a very famous movie reviewer in like the 70s and 80s, I think. And it wasn't just like, hey, 4 stars, go see it. It was an exploration into what the movie was doing thematically, narratively, all that. And I'm not saying that's the nature of all the discourse about criticizing wrestling on the internet. Far from it.
Yeah.
But I think to tell fans, hey, just sit and enjoy it. And I think that closes discussion on things that probably can and maybe at times should really be discussed about what's on our televisions.
Yeah. No, I get that. I think that in the case of Samantha Irvin, it was, and I'd have to look at the actual.
I didn't see the context of what.
I'm almost positive it was one of those things where it was like being nitpicky.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a blanket, like, oh, you guys should just shut up and sit down and enjoy it. It was like, and that's, and here, this is not a black and white issue. It is when you have people who seem to just want to complain. not constructively
Yeah,
criticize
there's the
or
disingenuous
analyze.
arguments, people who are looking to find something to complain about for whatever reason, engagement on the internet, whatever. Yes.
That's what I took, if I'm not mistaken. And that is, it, and I think honestly, like I have seen, and the problem is so often when prominent people like Triple H he's been very vocal in the past about people just enjoy the thing. But then, he gets on social media and you can tell that he really listens to what goes on social media. And I think that's good. I think that's smart. It's like you listen to your audience, but then there is that segment of people
Yeah.
who, whether it's disingenuous or they are being genuine in their petty bullshit complaints. I thought it was funny the AEW Danielson Okada match coming up on Dynamite.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that match. I think it's going to be great. I think they did kind of overthink things by, adding the Continental rules in there. Both championships are on the line, et cetera, et cetera. Like they could have easily just been like, hey, Okada's coming after that title. He's going to be a double champion if he gets it.
Yeah.
I don't think you need both titles on the line because then you run into the issue of, okay, well, now we got to write this text where it's 20 minutes.
Well, then also you're telegraphing we're going to have a wonk finish.
And yeah, absolutely. And it's okay to understand what they're doing and get a kick out of the silliness of it because it's another thing to be like AEW sucks because they're doing this. It's silly. It's overboard. And I think that kind of minority voice is what they used to call the vocal the vocal minority. It's just the loudest voice or sometimes the most asinine.
Most obnoxious at times, yes.
Right.
Yes.
And asinine in some situations.
Yeah.
But and I think they, the front-facing personalities, the Samantha Irvins, the Triple H's, they see that and hear that and respond to that much more than the constructive criticism, because the constructive criticism is, oh, I get that point of view. That's understandable. But then you've got this obnoxious asshole screaming in your face in all caps on your Twitter replies. That's what they're going to get annoyed by. And because they're annoyed by it, they respond to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't think Samantha is saying, shut up, sit down and enjoy it. She's saying, what the fuck? Can you guys just appreciate? Because I'm going to try to find it.
Okay.
But I'm also slow at that. So burn some time here.
I will. I'll go on the next question. Because like I said, I saw she saw something, but I didn't see the context.
Yeah.
In which it was stated. So, I went into answering this question completely.
Oh, here it is. Here it is. Here it is.
Sure,
here it is. So this person here, at Who Is Vindictive, says, y'all know I adore them, but why does Bad Blood need a host? Because it's Jaden Bianca. But why does Bad Blood need a host? This ain't WrestleMania or SummerSlam. And it's just like, well, why not? Why not? Why is this worth bitching about?
Yeah. No, I understand that.
And Samantha says, we never just going to sit back and enjoy, are we? And she says, IWC knows how to book premium live events, secure sponsors, delegate budgets, call matches, commentate brand and market, but they don't know how to enjoy the show. And when she references the IWC, I'll be honest with you, I'm so over the IWC.
Yeah.
Because it has gotten so, maybe it's always been that way and I'm just at my limit. It's gotten so much worse, seemingly.
Well, I think, part of it, too, is, something happened, a year or two ago with a particular social media company.
Yeah.
And the algorithm, as far as what was fed in your feeds, changed significantly.
Yeah.
And what may have been out there that we were able to largely avoid was right in our face all the time. And you're right. There's a difference between sincere, thoughtful criticism, which I think should be encouraged and welcome. I think this is people talking about wrestling, and I'll say critical, and people might take that the wrong way. Critical way, as in, let's discuss what's going on.
Yeah, right.
What are the subtext of these stories?
Yeah.
What does it mean for the story, for the show as a whole? Whatever you want to say thematically, what's going on here, so on and so forth. That's something that I think should be welcomed and encouraged.
And you can, it's funny because there's such a disparity between, you can find that kind of stuff on YouTube, especially.
Yeah, you can.
There's
Absolutely.
a lot of really great thought essays on YouTube about that kind of stuff. But on Twitter, it's, like you said, the algorithm changed, and engagement, especially when they started cutting checks, engagement farming, which is basically just let me whine or be counter to everything so that I can drive up my engagement.
Yep.
Get that check, maybe. Then the word disingenuous, dishonest, whatever you want to call it,
insincere, whatever you want to say. Yes,
that it's the rage bait. That's what picks up. That's what
it is,
gets
and that obviously that's the stuff that it's in your face and it's the loudest, it's the most obnoxious, and it does seem to be more prevalent because that's what's being fed to us on social media, on Twitter at least, and that's a bummer.
Yeah,
that is those are those voices are the ones that are being put out there over more thoughtful ones, perchance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like this morning, I was going through Twitter, and it was, I don't know, a couple of accounts that are obviously, it's a couple of the wrestling Twitter accounts that really feed into the tribalistic conversation online. Yeah. And for whatever reason, I hadn't muted them before. I was like, I don't want to deal with this. I don't want this on my timeline because it's not constructive.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you want to have constructive conversations about anything you see in your TV, movies, television, wrestling, whatever, I think that's great. But if you're there with some like your Twitter name is down with AEW, well, I'm not going to take your criticism seriously because there's an obvious agenda behind it.
You're named after your agenda.
Yes.
Exactly. On the other hand, you get like Myth Gifts Wrestling, and it's like,
that's great criticism.
It's great. It's like analyzing, breaking it down, and talking about it in a way that's stimulating and engaging in a positive way.
It can enhance your enjoyment of the product.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whereas you have all these Twitter accounts now in your face because they're just being promoted by the algorithm. That kind of, when you see the stuff just thrown at you like tweet vomit.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want to be involved in this.
Yeah, it's like a picture of Carmelo Hayes and then a greater than sign and Swerve Strickland. It's like, okay, there's like several layers of problem there. You know what I mean? It's like that kind of stuff where it's like it's just designed to elicit a response. An emotional response. Yeah.
Yep. So, no, I mean, if now knowing what Samantha was responding to, I understand, and if it was a thoughtful criticism of something and she saw it, she probably wouldn't have responded so strongly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Yeah, for sure.
So, anyways, all the room for thoughtful, constructive criticism. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Before we continue on with the next one, we want to point this out really quick. Of course, we've got the Big Blue Predictions Challenge coming up, man. This is exciting. The first event of the next Big Blue Predictions Challenge is, of course, Bad Blood coming up this weekend. And after that, we got Wrestle Dream. So it's just a 2-event deal this time, right?
Correct.
Yes. And you can participate in the Big Blue Predictions Challenge and try your hand at winning this exclusive.
I want that hat.
Only for the winners. Only. You got to win. You got to win. You have a cash-in available, though, so you could.
No, I don't.
You don't? Oh, that's right. You didn't win this year. Oh, shit. No, 2 other people do have cash.
I just picked Zack Sabre Jr. to win the G1. I would have won it back-to-back years.
Cherry in the bank. And
Peter Brontes.
Peter Brontes. What a great name. No nickname there. Just Peter Brontes. Write down your name, Peter Brontes. So anyways, the Big Blue Predictions Challenge is on. And we got 2 events for it if you want to win this hat. And check out all of our bonus content and join in with the show by asking your questions on our question threads. Real easy way to do it. You click join right here on this YouTube channel. It's $5 a month, but you get access to all that stuff. Or you can go to patreon.com/Steven Larson. You can click on the Friendo Club setup there. And again, it's $5 a month, but you get access to all that. And it's a really great way to help support us here at Going in Raw. So be sure to check that out. Also, we ask everybody here, drop us some comments because the YouTube algorithm loves comments, and it helps boost the profile of the show. If you're listening to this in the audio realm, rating, review, comment, that all helps boost the profile of the show there as well. Also, friendoshop.com. We got some merch over there. I'm wearing the hat I'm not sure if Larson's shirt right there is available. I was checking out their phone cases. I think I'm going to do a line of phone cases.
Good idea.
Soon.
I need to get me a new phone sometime soon. So
right, I got this one. I already got a phone case, but I might get a second one, like a backup.
Can you get them so they have the translucent?
I don't think they've got that there. This is a Casetify right here. but friendoshop.com coming soon. iPhone cases, and even for dummy Android phones as well. Coming up very shortly. So yeah, anyways, let's move on to the next hot take.
Let's do it. Douglas LFC 23 says, I've been enjoying wrestling without tuning into my favorite wrestling YouTube shows after. I love y'all, but the IWC makes me not want to talk about wrestling at all. Kind of goes back to the conversation we just had. And yeah, if I see a steady stream of nonsense, disingenuous, insincere takes on my Twitter, I'm like, I don't want to engage with this. I don't.
Right. Yeah.
But I don't want to see it because it doesn't enhance my enjoyment or appreciation of this product that I want to enjoy and appreciate. Therefore, I just don't want to deal with it. And Douglas, if you feel like YouTube shows, whatever they may be, not enhancing your enjoyment or experience watching wrestling, then fine. Yeah, don't watch. What are you giving me that face for?
Is he listening right now?
That's a good question.
I mean, he said, I've been enjoying wrestling without tuning into my favorite wrestling YouTube shows.
Does that mean that we're not, if he's listening, Douglas, then we're not one of his favorites?
Wow, fucking. I mean, he did say, I love y'all.
Yeah, but the IWC makes me not want to talk about wrestling at all.
Okay. All right. This is a really confusing hot take. It's like sort of hot, cold. It's kind of all over the map. Not really sure how to take it.
I think it goes with the conversation we had before about a bunch,
Yeah, we're not that.
I hope
we don't
not.
do that. Douglas, the fuck? We're not that.
I think we make an attempt to not be that because I don't think we are that.
Are we answering a hot take for a guy who doesn't even watch our show?
Could be.
Damn it. We were fooled by Douglas.
Well, that's on me. I put in the notes. So.
Oh, no, I'm trying to take some of the heat off you.
No.
Yeah. Look, I get it. Last thing you want. I mean, he says after the shows, like the ones right after. There's one guy right after who just like screams at the camera the whole time. I wouldn't want to watch that shit either. Time
for several hours at that, right?
Sometimes like 3 hours. I'm just screaming at the camera. Time War 26 has another hot take here. It says the current design of the Intercontinental Championship is ugly, and they should never have changed it from the previous design. He says, edit. I should clarify, I'm not talking about the blued up IC title, but mainly the overall design that was introduced with Shinsuke Nakamura when he won.
We have a companion question from Asian Merce. Says, I've always liked the current model of the Intercontinental title. Kind of shocked it took blue accents for everyone to do a 180 because I remember a lot of people not liking the design of the belt before.
So that second part, it is like everybody flipped the script on this one because a lot of people were anti this version. I was always like, hey, you know what? Looks kind of European. That's kind of cool. I know that Europe isn't part of the Intercontinental. The Intercontinental is supposed to be North and South America,
right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But that being said, hey, that'd be awesome if they took like some inspiration from like CMLL titles or AAA titles.
Yeah.
But like this had kind of a Progress feel to it. It kind of had like a European feel to it, which I kind of appreciated. But the title that you got sitting in your office somewhere, that's a beautiful looking title. I love that one. Wasn't a fan of the Attitude Era one, but I like that one. But this one I was cool with. But I mean, the people really flipped for when they add a little bit of blue in it. It's a beautiful looking title now.
Yeah, I mean, that's all it takes sometimes is a little detail for something to pop, for people's perceptions to be changed about it. I wasn't like completely down on the Intercontinental title when they redesigned it, but I wasn't like super into it either.
Gunther really, I think sometimes when you have a title that's really just strongly tied into the person holding it, it kind of elevates the perception of the title. So people are before Gunther, that title had just been buried. It was like 18 months without being on pay-per-view or something like that. But no, I was fine with the title. But then you add a little bit of dash of blue for the water. Boy.
Now it pops.
And it looks good on Jay. He looks good with that title.
It does. But you're right, like the SmackDown tag titles.
Could use that.
Pop. They need to pop a little bit.
It does.
I think even the Raw tag titles, because the red on there is so kind of muted.
Saucy. Looks like pizza.
It does look like pizza. It needs to pop a bit more. So maybe a little brighter red on there. Pop.
Yeah, I kind of wonder what that would need.
Would your eyes just gravitate instantly to the red on there then?
You know what? It's for me. You know what it is? It's the. There's too much orange in the gold. The gold is too
warm.
Needs to back up a little bit. Yeah.
You want a cooler gold.
A cooler gold would be nice. Yeah. Not necessarily like a white gold, but like, just dial back the saturation.
It's almost like rose gold in your estimation.
It's like, it looks like cheese.
It does kind of look like pizza.
Looks like pizza. Yeah.
HS 1995 says Kevin Owens is the best wrestler of modern wrestling. Even though he hasn't won the world title in years, he always feels like a top guy.
Okay.
He might be one of, if not the most thoughtful wrestlers in terms of knowing his own history and paying attention to the details.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody's in tune with everything they've done and knowing in the right circumstances to reference it to enhance the story being told. He does that arguably better than anybody else.
He understands the importance of the organic change in character. Whenever he has to go from a heel to a face to a heel, he understands. He honestly comes off as one of the most forward-thinking pro wrestlers in that. And you can tell this with Triple H. I think that's why Triple H is a big Kevin Owens guy. You can tell that Triple H really understands that in this day and age, in order for characters to resonate, you can't just do a heel turn. You can't just do, all of a sudden I'm behaving differently.
Yep.
You gotta have the motivation. You gotta have the reason for it.
Kevin Owens,
whenever Kevin Owens was dealt whatever he was dealt by Vince McMahon, this dude always found little ways on television within the span of his promos to make us understand that this was an organic situation, even though Vince would just throw it at him. So I really appreciate that they're taking the slow route with whatever his character is going to go through here. I always appreciate that as a good guy. He's always been kind of a semi-reluctant good guy. He's a good guy that he knows he's got a ton of baggage and things can change pretty quickly if he lets it get out of control. I've always loved that about Kevin Owens.
Agreed. Lord Blake Whitehouse here says, bad bloodline losing to Roman be like Nexus losing to Cena.
Wow, that's a hot one.
That is a hot take.
So, boy.
So, in Steve's estimation, that would be bad bloodline losing is a good idea.
Well,
or the right call.
And this is why I don't agree with this hot take, because I think there are things that you can still do with the bad bloodline to. Here's the thing. Cody and Roman together, they are the mega powers. They should be the most dominant team there's ever been, because they're the last two top WWE champions at their peak, blah, blah, blah.
But Steve, like you like to say, thrown together tag teams shouldn't perform as well as cohesive units that have been together for a while.
No, but I'm not booking it. WWE is. And WWE generally doesn't give a shit about that. So I'm just calling it the way it is. Boy, this is a tough one. This is kind of a tough one. Because, like, Solo hasn't quite lived up to...
This is what it is, Steve.
Yeah.
Solo probably will... There could be something... I'm trying to find the best way to word this.
This is a good hot take, by the way.
Solo losing to Roman seems inevitable because it makes sense in terms of story, but if they kind of play their cards right creatively after, it could lead to something interesting with Solo.
Mm-hmm.
Jacob Fatu, I don't think should be losing to anybody anytime soon. And if you don't want him losing to Roman, you don't have a singles match between them for a while until you're ready to put Jacob over.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
I think the dynamic, number one, I think this would be a lot different if the dynamic had been fully explored or even like partway explored with the bad bloodline
with any sort of
in any manner.
degree. I know.
And because I think that, look, I think the nexus was, hey, let's put these young guys together as this new deadly force in the WWE. Vince grew sour on him. My assertion with the nexus was you got to have the pieces on their own have to have value as well. The bloodline situation is different because they're designed to function as a unit, not necessarily on their own, although Jacob at some point will be a massive star on his own, or maybe even leading his own version of Bad Bloodline. I don't know. I guess the bigger thing is this also. I think this is what, now that I'm thinking about it, the Bad Bloodline is but one part of a larger saga. The Nexus was the Nexus. The Nexus was, let's introduce a group and see if we can get them over. And then I guess Cena put the brakes on that one.
Yeah.
I don't think, and I think that if the sum of the, if the parts were greater, then it probably would have, lasted longer. But the one guy to really break out was Ryback. The Bad Bloodline is part of a larger saga. It's part of a larger story. It's part of a tapestry. So that's why I think them being beat by Roman and Cody in tandem, by the way, it's not just one guy like Cena was. I know he had a whole team, but like in the end, it was just him and he eliminated everybody. So they're part of a tapestry. And so them losing is simply going to change their dynamic, perhaps. And then we'll see how that affects Roman and Cody. It's all part of a larger story. And that, I think, is the difference in why I disagree with this take.
Story never ends. That's what you're saying.
The thing is, but the story is that the story never ends.
SummerSlam 2010, the Nexus story pretty much ended.
The story never
officially,
ends.
But it pretty much ended.
It ended under those chairs at the next one.
Yep. Shadow Spike Death Star, hot take.
Great name.
Says, because of the Rock Cody story, Cody's reign is less interesting because we know he'll have it till a Rock versus Cody match.
Well, we knew that from the second The Rock showed up on the Raw after Mania.
That's what I think that's the point here, is that once The Rock showed up the Raw after Mania and told Cody.
Yeah.
Our paths will cross again. I think it's been the idea going into it is the certainty that The Rock's going to challenge Cody for that title probably at Mania next year. Therefore, Cody's going to have that belt the entire time. Therefore, not as much drama inherent in his feud because we know he's not going to lose.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I 1,000% agree. And they haven't done enough with the individual feuds to make them interesting for them to stand on their own as any sort of highlights of Cody's reign. Now we're in interesting, somewhat more interesting territory now that Roman's back. And that's simply because by teaming with Roman, Cody's going to start alienating all the Cody Avengers.
Yeah.
But he's already had a match with Kevin Owens. He might have another. He'll have a match against Randy Orton probably. Uh-huh. Now that Seth's back, Seth's going to take issue with Cody teaming with Roman too? Probably. So hopefully now we're in a more interesting phase of Cody's reign leading up to if he takes on The Rock at Mania next year. He will probably be walking into that match all by himself.
Right, yeah.
Whereas The Rock will probably have Bad Bloodline having his back.
Which I think is a good, strong possibility. The Rock is going to win that match at WrestleMania. I think it'll be like The Empire Strikes Back. I agree. I absolutely agree with that. That being said, I think there was totally a way to book Cody into some interesting stories that we didn't need to care about whether or not the title was going to come or go. I think that they could have done a good job. I think they could have done a better job instilling some amount of doubt in our heads. And I think even if they don't do that, it's not always necessarily the outcome. It's the journey. And
journeys haven't been the most interesting either.
And they have not been that interesting.
No. Yeah. Melissa Brown here says, you're going to take issue with this one, Steve. The new Judgment Day isn't working at all. They claim to be equals, but they just feel like a group of high school kids with nothing in common forced to hang out with each other. Them huddling together instead of doing fist bumps doesn't equal chemistry.
Oh, I disagree. I think their chemistry is great. And I would love for them to get back to having a clubhouse. I think that, I think that they established a dynamic during the Rhea Damian days that I think is carried over. I think Dom has completely found his character. Finn, here's the thing about the whole they claim they're equals. That's the claim. But Finn does not consider himself an equal, and that is completely and totally obvious. I really appreciate the Judgment Day. I mentioned this on the Raw review. I think the Judgment Day now are more fully realized because you don't have to worry about somebody getting popular. You don't have to worry about it. Well, am I supposed to boo or cheer Rhea? Yeah. Am I supposed to? Yeah. Is Damian a good guy or a bad guy? They were booking him different week to week for a spell.
Yeah.
You don't worry about all that stuff. They're just all, as their shirt says, street trash. They are a bunch of assholes. And I don't know. I kind of feel like they got some decent chemistry, man. I really do. I really love the Judgment Day. I can't get enough of Dom Mysterio. I think that dude is fucking hilarious and wildly entertaining. I love the new Judgment Day. I really do. I think they actually make more sense than the previous iteration. If maybe they don't have, Damian and Rhea, they all had such great chemistry. You could tell they all loved each other very much. So we are missing that for sure.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like this one just makes more sense.
Yeah. Yeah, to a degree. I mean, if the whole idea is that they're street trash, you don't necessarily need the same level of bond between the members.
Right.
Like we had with the previous iteration of Judgment Day, where they're saying we're a family.
Right, yeah.
And this just has a different vibe.
It does.
And it's not to say that the chemistry's different, but still very good. Mm-hmm. They're still booked effectively. No, I think it's been solid. And I guess it depends. Like the previous iteration of Judgment Day had such a long story together, and we saw them become, some undercooked idea, whether it was Edge's creation or pitched to him, into something very much their own and something very good and more or less the bloodline of Raw, and that they were the A story.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
we saw that journey with them. And now that there's been the split and Judgment Day has a different vibe about him, now we got to get that story of them as a unit.
Yeah, right.
Pair twins as their own unit.
Mm-hmm.
And, maybe assuming that Judgment Day doesn't implode once Liv loses the title to Rhea, and they drop the tag titles, they would defend them again. And then maybe we'll get that story.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And maybe perceptions will be a little different. I don't know.
Do you think,
but I've been enjoying their work.
Let me ask you this. Do you think, because we've always said, and I think this is going to happen with Dom for sure.
Yeah.
Do you think at any point this iteration of the Judgment Day are going to be forced into becoming faces?
Right now, apart from maybe Dom, I don't know if any of them are. This isn't a slight, because it's just the characters they're portraying. I don't know if any of them are. I don't think any of their characters are to the point where they're doing such wildly entertaining work on a consistent basis that it's going to naturally get them over as faces. We always say the formula if you want to try to get somebody over is you have them be a heel. The crowd really starts to appreciate their heel work, therefore just automatically turning it to a face because, hey, we really enjoy you. And I think everybody in Judgment Day now is doing a good job in their roles. I don't want to make it sound like they suck because they don't. They're great. But apart from Dom, I don't necessarily, this is what it is. They're not necessarily put in positions from a character perspective where they can advance that progression, if that makes sense.
It does. They're just meant to be bad.
Yeah.
If you remember, like when they were feuding with Edge and they can chair-toed Beth Phoenix.
Yeah.
That to me was like, oh my God, that was awesome.
Yeah.
And I know the crowd was just booing the living shit out of him. Wasn't that long after, because when you continue to do really cool shit, people don't care. They're just like, oh, they're really cool. Yeah. I'm going to start cheering them. Mm-hmm. And I like that Finn, as over the past couple weeks, has been booked to be doing some kind of cool shit. Mm-hmm. I think if that keeps happening, And I think Dom and Liv, if they really start to ramp up the chemistry, and I'm not talking about anytime soon, I'm saying if this iteration sticks around a year from now, I kind of like the idea that like Judgment Day will keep on kicking out the most popular members of the group. And so it's like at some point that piece of shit JD is going to be leading it, and they'll add some shitty members. And so you're just like, in a couple of years, you just have like this really awful version of Judgment Day. But I could see Liv and Dom getting over as a face act, like a big time face act. Because God, Dom is so fucking funny, and Liv, I'm really starting to warm on Liv's work. I really am. And honestly, sometimes the more obnoxious, just kind of like Julius Creed with that stupid laugh of his.
Brutus.
I'm sorry, Brutus. Yeah, Brutus. It's like, that shit's funny. Yeah. That's going to get over. That's going to get over.
Yeah.
So.
Jordan Ibar here says, horror in wrestling feels outdated and personally takes me out of it, especially considering nowadays characters more often or not seem to be the performer's personality dialed up. It's tough.
It's not easy.
It's tough to kind of find that balance between creating that mystique, but still having it be grounded enough for it to be believable within the world they're building.
Yeah.
It's possible, but it is a tough kind of line to kind of follow. So I don't know.
I think what they're doing with the Wyatt Six, where it's like they use them and they pull them back, and you get some ominous shit, and then they're going to use them and then they pull back a little.
But also
bit.
too, it's ominous shit, but it's grounded in very real.
That's what it has to be, and even the best horror is
Yeah.
grounded in the real. Psycho mom issues, and I mean I think that's like a Voorhees thing as well. Maybe a Michael Myers.
Yeah.
They all have mom issues.
Because in the first Friday the 13th movie, it's Jason Voorhees' mom.
It is his mom. That's right. Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
Sorry.
Seen Friday the 13th, the first one.
Came out a million years ago.
Yeah. So no, I don't know about outdated, but it's difficult.
It's not easy to
I don't
pull
think
off.
in this day and age you can put out
The Boogeyman.
That's an example. A wrestler who's supposed to be a supernatural horror themed character without it being very much grounded in reality, because people would be like, all right, what is this? This is kind of hokey.
I don't know if you could do the eye lasers these days.
No, I don't think you do the eye lasers.
I don't know if you could do that. I think especially in a Triple H. Triple H seems to be just like things are grounded, like the Bray Wyatt. The Bo Dallas stuff.
Yeah,
it's very grounded in some real shit.
Yep.
And I think that's one reason why I think it can and has the potential to work really, really well. Whether or not they'll be able to execute it properly long term is another issue. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. All right, got one last one here from Mr. MK. Says, Logan Paul has go-away heat with me. I don't care how skilled he is. I always skip his matches. He's a massive scumbag, and the only reason WWE got away with hiring him is because the casual wrestling fan is not familiar with exactly who he is or the things he's done.
Yeah, and I think he says punctuates there and continues to do. Fuck that guy.
Still doing. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't touch that fucking dog shit Lunchable that they're selling.
It's got electrolytes in it, Steve. Did you see that?
Jesus Christ! Did they? I mean, are they just trying to rip off Idiocracy at this point? Like, are they just not? It's got electrolytes.
I know it's ridiculous.
No, it's so stupid. You can't trust a fucking thing they say.
Nope.
When it comes to that, so I'm not going to read the nutritional value of that shit and be like, oh yeah, I'm going to feed that. Well,
it's the cynicism of rebranding salt. It's the sodium amount in their, Lunchleys, where they're called?
Lunchleys, yeah.
And saying they're electrolytes because, people associate electrolytes with, those are good for me.
You think I'm going to feed...
to a point.
You think I'm going to feed my kid food? And this dude has, like, how many lawsuits against him for his other dog shit products?
Yep.
Fuck out of here with that.
No.
Get out of here with that. That shit, by the way, is going to fail miserably.
Oh, it is. Absolutely.
It is. Yeah.
It absolutely is. No, I have no desire to see Logan Paul on my television set ever.
I gave him a chance. I was like, hey, maybe he's grown up a little bit. But then it's just been, you read up on him. You Google, on a Logan Paul lawsuit, or on YouTube rather. And there's a couple of really, really well-presented videos outlining what he is.
Mm-hmm.
So I would suggest people go check that out. But I have no desire to see him on my television. I'll be bummed out when he comes back, because he's going to come back, and
He's going to come back. He's in a prominent role. He's going to take TV time from wrestlers who deserve to have that TV time. And it's a bummer.
Yep, it is. Absolutely.
And then
Thoroughly
when they have
agree.
these pay-per-views like this weekend, you see that goddamn prime ball in the middle of the ring. It's a reminder he's coming back at some point. And it's a bummer.
Yep.
Don't wanna
Glad
see
to
it.
know that's not selling very well, though, so.
I still yet to try it. I have no desire to.
Yeah, I regret putting that filth in my body.
There you go.
Anyways, yeah, that's going to do it for Hot Takes. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notify bell so that you can always be notified when we got a Hot Takes thread going up. Usually it's on Monday because we film this on Tuesday. Join us later on today. Yes, if you're watching this in the morning on Tuesday.
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Today is Tuesday, Steve.
I know.
Got to get the whiteboard out. It's a Kevin Nash situation.
Telling me. Be sure to join us on Wednesday for our NXT. Ooh, I can't wait to see that new Raiders
It's on Twitter.
inspired logo.
If you want to see the,
It
logo,
is. You want my reaction to the
I've
NXT
already
logo?
seen it. Yeah.
All right, hold on a second. Let me see this thing. What is your thoughts on it? Yay or nay? Oh, okay.
It's not a massive departure.
It's not. I will say this. Boy, that looks a lot closer to the old school one.
Yeah, a bit. The X in the old one was much larger, though.
It was. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Yeah, it was. Yeah.
But it looks to be the same font. It's like they did an amalgam of the old logo and then the new one, and then just use silver instead of gold.
Yeah, I like that. Oh, I like that. I wonder
Looks
what the
fine.
intro's going to... Hopefully the intro will look cool.
You want wrestlers lip syncing. Slipknot, was it? Was it Slipknot?
I do, man. I do. You know, man, I'm cool. You put the hip hop on the other stuff. You got to give them... One of these has to have some new metal on it.
Maybe the...
You don't want to say it?
What? Rock music isn't relevant anymore?
No. Whatever you were about to say.
No, that's what I was going to say. Rock music
okay.
isn't relevant anymore, so don't get
You
your
know,
hopes up
I
for
know
it.
it's not relevant anymore, but gosh darn it, I'm old. I'm not relevant anymore. Anyways, that's going to do it for the show today. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We appreciate it. Till next time, we'll see you guys around. We are not your kind. We are not your kind. Johnny Gargano with a big smile on his face, singing along.
That's what it was.
That's exactly what it is. We'll see you guys around.
Goodbye.